Would like to introduce our speakers, Gopal Rajegowda from Related, and West Palm Beach Mayor Keith James. Come on up.
Paul, good to see you, buddy. And all these people here because of you. But anyway, why don't you tell us about yourself a little bit, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's great to see a big crowd here. Obviously, there have been a lot of changes in this community, and I've been proud to be part of it over the last almost 10 years. I'll maybe just start off with a little bit of background on myself. Maybe it's helpful for those who don't know me. I'm the managing partner of Related Southeast, which is Related Company's office here in West Palm Beach. I've been with Related 18 years, started in New York City. And early in my career, I spent a lot of time focusing on hospitality, so hospitality projects, developing hotels. That sort of morphed over time, focusing on placemaking around retail, restaurants, entertainment, public space, urban planning, all of the things that from a horizontal level we believe drive value for our vertical density components. And from 2008 to 2011, I spent 3 years in Las Vegas with the company developing a major resort hotel project called the Cosmopolitan Resort and Casino, which taught me a lot. It was a 6.5 million square foot project with 3,000 rooms and 9-star chef restaurants and retail and a casino and all these really incredible mixed-use components. Finished that at the end of 2010, 2011. In 2011, I came back to New York City and met my now partner, Ken Himmel, who was supposed to be here today but couldn't make it. And Ken said, hey, you're a hotel guy, you've got great hotel experience. We won an RFP for a hotel in West Palm Beach. Can you go down there and help execute the project? And I remember thinking to myself, I love hospitality. I'm obviously a team player for the company, but why would anyone want to go to West Palm Beach? And all jokes aside, I lived in New York City. I had traveled all over the world. I really never envisioned myself living and working in Florida. I had zero connection here, zero family connection. My parents took me and my brothers to Disney World when we were kids, and I had been to Miami a few times and thought it was a cool international city, but never imagined ever coming to Palm Beach. So in 2011, I ended up coming down here, flying down from New York, and spent 18 months flying back and forth to cut a deal with Palm Beach County to develop what is now the Hilton in West Palm Beach. So started that in 2011, over 10 years ago now. And we started building that project with a small development team in 2014. Opened the project in January 2016. While we were developing that project, Ken Himmel and I went out to Corte Madera in California and pitched Gary Friedman, who's the CEO of Restoration Hardware, to do what is now the Restoration Hardware Gallery, which is the 80,000 square foot gallery next to the hotel. So that's sort of my story of how I landed here in West Palm. What I'll say is, I think Related has been in this market for 25 plus years. Certainly with Steve Ross and Ken Himmel had a large vision to be here. When I came down here and we had a few people as part of a development team building a hotel, to put things in perspective today, just about 2 weeks ago we moved into our new office at 360 Rosemary with 60 employees. So we've grown significantly over the last 6.5, 7 years. Our current portfolio in downtown West Palm is around 2.5 million square feet of operating assets across 25 plus acres. And right now we have on the drawing board another 4 to 5 million square feet of development over the next 5 to 7 years across 50 acres. So it's been pretty tremendous and amazing to see the growth that's happened in this market. And like I said, I couldn't have imagined living here, but incredibly excited about what's happening. I will also add that I met my wife here, we got married here, and we live with our 14-month-old son in Gravy Heights and soon to be Flamingo Park. So we really enjoy being in this community.
So, in a word, West Palm Beach has been very, very good to you.
Yes.
That was off script, people. That wasn't written down here. Okay, so I've lived there for 35 years. By the way, I'm Keith James, Mayor of West Palm Beach. We were supposed to do self-introductions. The first question I asked Gopal was just for a short self-introduction. And so I'm just Keith James from West Palm Beach and the mayor. So Gopal, I've lived there for 35 years. Oh, thank you. And I've been watching the transformation of downtown West Palm, dating back to when Related won the RFP to build City Place in 1996. I've been a part of 3 groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings in the last few years. 575 Rosemary, groundbreaking, 360 Rosemary, and 1 Flagler. The growth and transformation of West Palm has been very exciting. Can you speak about Related's early vision for the city and the evolution of that vision for the future and what we're looking at today?
Yeah, definitely. Well, as you know, Related's story here came well before my arrival, and I think to remind everyone, Steve Ross and Ken Himmel came here in the mid-'90s to bid on an RFP to develop City Place, as you mentioned. I believe they won that RFP in 1996, so that was 26 years ago, a long time ago. Started building City Place, opened City Place in 2000, I believe, 22 years ago. And I think, it was a very, again, not being part of the original vision of it, I could sort of look at it and understand and speak with people here locally. It was an incredibly ambitious vision to be able to redevelop 72 acres in the middle of a downtown, which, at that time wasn't anywhere close to the downtown it is today, or it's becoming. And in typical fashion, Steve Ross is incredibly ambitious about anything he does. I think it was very pioneering at the time, and certainly there were a lot of bumps in the road early on. I would say, a few notable things to take into consideration post-2000 in the early days of the project were, 3 major economic events. First is the dot-com bubble of 2000. Second is 9/11. And I would say third, and probably had the most negative impact, is the financial crisis of 2008. So there were a lot of bumps in the road with this, massive mixed-use project, which, I've learned over my career. These development projects that we do are not for the faint of heart. And if you can't stick with them long term, it's probably not the right business for you. So in any case, I think there were a lot of bumps in the road. And I tell my partners all the time, I say, you guys had the right idea, you were just 20 years early. And that really is the truth. So, sort of fast forward, I guess, to today, the last 10 years, when my team and I started looking at, what was City Place after we opened the Hilton Hotel in 2016, we looked at this site and we said, wow, this is an incredible site. The bullseye in the middle of the city. We knew the Hilton was performing, the convention center was starting to perform. We knew the Brightline train was coming on the north end, which opened, I think, January of 2018. And we looked at it and we said, look, it's time for change. This is where we need to kind of totally rethink what this project was. It was designed, when I look at it, it was really designed as a pioneering lifestyle center. Lifestyle centers were pretty popular in that time as outdoor shopping center malls with some density around them. And we said, all right, it's time to pivot from a lifestyle center to a neighborhood, to a really exciting, dynamic neighborhood. And what makes neighborhoods exciting? It's the public spaces, it's the experiences, the retail, the restaurants, public art in our case. It's mobility and proximity to transportation. We have the Brightline, we have the Tri-Rail, we're right off 95. We're, of course, a mile from Palm Beach, which is incredible. So all of these things, we started to think it's really time to pivot into this exciting city. So we started that, again, about six and a half years ago, and we've continued on now to obviously where we are today. So it's been quite a transition, and I always like to kind of comment that, this is a story of, this isn't an overnight story. Certainly there's been a lot of chatter in the last few years post-COVID about all the new success and the migration to Florida, but this is a related story in this market is a 25-plus year story that did not happen overnight.
And I think that's a very important point, and if you could talk a little bit more about why did Related, from 1996 with the City Place, what is now the Square, to now, why did Related stick with that vision? And why does Related have so much faith in West Palm Beach?
It's a really good question, and I would say, even like I said, in those early days, it was tough to have that vision and see sort of past the noise that was happening, that was trying to make this place successful. But I would say, as I said earlier, I mean, I think I attribute all the vision initially to the grit and perseverance of Steve Ross and Ken Himmel, who stuck through with what the city was, what they had come to do, and always had a long view and a vision for what's going on. And like I said, fast forward today, there are a lot of interesting dynamics happening in the macro Florida story that are driving mass migration to the state. And I think, I know we believe that West Palm is amongst the most exciting cities in the state at the moment.
I would agree with you on that. All right, so let's talk Class A office space. Why is Related investing so much in Class A office space in West Palm Beach? Related has acquired 3 Class A office buildings in downtown in the last 2 years. You've built 360 Rosemary. You're developing 1 Flagler. And you just announced 515 Fern, which will be the largest office building in West Palm Beach. What's driving the need, in your view, what's driving the need for Class A office space in West Palm Beach?
Yeah, great question. First of all, I would say I can't say I had a crystal ball to see what was coming here. It's been pretty incredible, and certainly we've had a bit of a bird's eye view, being the owner of all the Class A office buildings in downtown West Palm. But I think one of the kind of macro large concepts that we always talk about is in our offices is this new Florida live work lifestyle that has evolved in a post-COVID environment. And I think that really is hinging on the fact that young people and young talent want to live and work in this market. And for example, that wasn't the case when Related built City Place Office Tower in 2008. It's a great building. We happen to have bought it back in the last 12 months, which is a first for the company. We sold it in 2009 and just bought it back. But at that time, 300,000 square foot building, for those of you who were around at the time and followed it, it really was a story of pulling tenants from other buildings in the market and within the county to actually make the financial picture of that building work. So at that time, it was a story of internal growth, which is very different than today. Take for example 360 Rosemary, which is over 100% leased because we've converted the top level of the garage. All of our office buildings are over 90%. That includes 360 Rosemary, City Place Office Tower, Phillips Point, Esperante. 1 Flagler is 60% leased without even coming out of the ground. We expect it to be at 75% leased at the end of the year. There was definitely a gap on when we acquired that site and we started developing it, which has actually moved in our favor in terms of how the market has gravitated. So there's been an incredible sort of transition. I think a lot of it is due to this migration and this idea that young talent wants to live here. Another interesting data point is in the last 24 months, we've leased over 700,000 square feet of office, but 80% of those tenants have been new to market. So it's a very different time today than it was, 12, 13 years ago.
I've heard Stephen Ross, talk about an inclusive city, which meshes with my vision for West Palm Beach being a community of opportunity for all. How has that resonated, and how has that driven some of the decisions that you're making?
Yeah, I think if you look at the company sort of when Steve started the company 50 plus years ago as an affordable housing developer, and most people don't know that we are still the largest owner and operator of affordable housing in the country. A lot of people think of Related as a luxury builder and a mixed-use builder, which we are, but Steve's passion is in building affordable housing, which is about inclusivity. So I think the belief, and the company has transitioned, I think, even 50 years, but even the last 18 that I've been there, from predominantly sort of affordable housing, individual buildings, luxury residential, now into city building. And I would say today we consider ourselves holistic city builders. And to build cities, you have to think about inclusivity, right? This isn't, of course we can build, luxury office buildings and residential buildings and great retail and restaurants, but the public spaces and the areas around our buildings, the public art program, which we're really passionate about, all this is inclusive and available to all. And we love that. We love that, this is inclusive and diverse, and it creates a real city.
You know, a topic that's near and dear to both of us is arts and culture. And so how has that played a role in your view, in bringing the community together while also reinvigorating and renovating the square and some of your other major assets? Arts and culture.
Yeah, so arts and culture is as you know, is a passion of mine personally. And, I feel part of it was living in New York for about close to 20 years. I lived right in the Flatiron, right off of Madison Square Park. For those of you who have been to the park, I watched that park go from a place that you didn't want to be at, back in 1999 to I think one of the most dynamic parks maybe in the world. And what happened there was a Madison Square Park Conservancy formed, and there's some of the greatest public art installations there that's fully funded by this nonprofit. But and there were other ideas. There's the High Line in New York, but I watched how public art can really enhance community and give community identity. And public art is inclusive. Inclusive in the sense that you don't have to go to a gallery, you don't have to go to a museum. That might be intimidating for a lot of people. You can just go and experience world-class art. So about 5 years ago we created a strategic plan around the arts. I see Rena Blades is here, who's been working with us closely on that plan. And this notion that public art can drive transformative cities. We've installed 4 major pieces around the square. One of them you know really well, which is the Yinka Shinobari wind sculpture at 360 Rosemary, which is the first ever public-private partnership to bring a world-renowned artist to the public realm. So we hope that sets a precedent for other developers in the downtown. And then at One Flagler, I'm hoping in the next month or so we're going to be able to announce another public-private partnership with the city to bring a major public installation to the public realm of One Flagler. So I mean, this is all about passion. It's I think that we spend a lot of time on the details around our city building, and public art is just another special component of how we curate.
So I know you said you don't have a crystal ball, but I think you probably have one in your pocket somewhere. So, well, what else do you see coming down the pike? What else is exciting to you about the future of what you guys are doing in West Palm Beach?
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly exciting time in the city, and I would say it's not only for Related. As you know, there are a lot of world-class developers, both in West Palm Beach and in Palm Beach on the island here, less so on the commercial side here. But it's an incredible moment, and these moments don't come around very often, and it's very exciting to see the growth and sustainable growth happen. I would say there are probably 3 things that excite me the most about where